We'll prepare and serve with flair, a culinary cabaret. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. Lots of news this week. Jason was actually at the Airbnb event where they announced a big app redesign, but also offering experiences and adding a ton of features into Airbnb. We're going to talk about that. iOS 18.5 came out with a really important screen time feature. Apple Maps gets new information like from Michelin star restaurants. There was an Android redesign coming up. Galaxy S25 Edge is out there, and a ton more. This episode is brought to you by the Insta360 X5 camera and 1Password, and you, the members who support us directly. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, and as always, joined by Jason Aiton. How's it going, Jason?
I'm a little bit jet lagged, I'm not going to lie, but I'm here.
You were in LA, what, like yesterday?
I got back yesterday, yeah.
But you saw Chance the Rapper, right?
I did. Hung out with Chance.
You hung out with Chance the Rapper. You have, I don't know, some weeks you're the most interesting man in the world. I mean, you go to the F1 race.
I have the weirdest job. I just keep texting you. I have the weirdest job.
I just get pictures of random celebrities and Jason not taking selfies with them, just taking pictures of them like
I don't do... It's such an interesting dynamic at stuff like this because we'll talk about it, but there are a lot of celebrities at that event. I just don't, because it feels like it's hard to interview someone and be treated seriously and then be like, oh, by the way, can I get a selfie? It's just, whereas you see all these influencers and the YouTubers and they're like, screw it, give me a selfie, man. Like, I need to get this on my channel.
I mean, I don't know. You met you can't say who you met at the F1 race, right? Is that kind of against the...
there were a lot of famous people. That's all I'm going to say.
There were a lot of famous people. One famous person in particular, you said you met, and I told my kids, and they were like, how did he not get a selfie from this person? And I said, I know. I don't know.
In that situation, in fairness, it was darker than the midnight. Like, it was very dark in that place. It was at a restaurant called Delilah, which is fantastic.
Fancy.
But I don't know if it was Miami, and it's like restaurant / nightclub happening at the same time. It was loud and it was dark.
I won't reveal who it was, but let me just say, if I was there meeting that person, I would have been the guy to turn on the flash on my iPhone, hand it to someone and said, please take a selfie.
We're going back to the early 2000s and just flash everything, right?
I don't care if it's blurry, if there's like light streaks across, I want a selfie. Anyway, do you have any idea where the quote might be from today?
Oh, we did that, don't we? We still do this thing.
We still do that.
Culinary flair.
A culinary cabaret. We'll prepare and serve with flair. A culinary cabaret.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's got to be Beauty and the Beast.
Nailed it. I thought Airbnb, be our guest. I thought that was apropos, germane, as you do.
I like how your brain works, Stephen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, you were at the Airbnb event, so I want to talk about that. But also, we have a 5-star review from Mexico. Jer MSMZ says he loves the show. Battery percentage. He turned the battery percentage off during a recent trip and confidently says that they despise it. So he will be turning battery percentage back on, but phone in dominant pockets. So there you go. Jason wins on that one. And another thanks to John Gruber for being on the show last week. That was super fun. First time I've ever podcast with him. And just thank him for coming on. That episode's in the feed and on YouTube. And we were in the top 50 shows last week, likely due to John Gruber's guest appearance. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And welcome back. If you listen to that episode and you're like, you know what, I'm going to check these guys out one more time. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, he had a busy week. He was on Dakota the same week.
He was on Dakota. That's right. And then I don't know if I didn't say this on the show, but I did finally subscribe to Dithering, his podcast, and so I am listening to that now. It is a very good show. 15 minutes in and out. 2 episodes.
It's great. The only complaint I have about that is I liked it better when it was 3 times a week.
Because it was 3 times a week.
When they started it was 3 times a week. And it's only twice a week now, but it's only a 15-minute show, and it's him and Ben Thompson. And I really, I like that show. It's fun.
It's a good show. They're smart people. But speaking of multiple times a week, our survey, which we've been going a couple weeks, I'm going to still put it in the show notes one last time, but it seems far and away people want a daily podcast with summary of the news, the tech news of the day, as a member benefit. And so I am hyping myself up to do this, to do it. I want to make sure I can sustain it, and looking to launch that very soon. And so thanks for all taking the survey. I'll put a survey one more time in the show notes. And if you are not currently a member and we were asking what benefit would prompt you to support the show, and we would love to hear from you. And so that'll be one of the first links in the show notes.
So are we just charging people like $5 a month to vote in the survey? It's like,
No, anybody. That's the thing. Anybody can take the survey because it needs to be.
so they don't actually have to commit, because you just said we're asking
no.
people what it would take to get them to sign up, and it's like, well, how about if you answer the survey, we'll sign you up.
But what would it take to get you in this car today?
Yeah.
All right, so the big Airbnb event, I'm going to hand it to Jason in a second because he was there, but not only has Airbnb redesigned their app, they have now offered things called experiences and more, where not only can you book a place to stay, whether you're in a city or wherever, but if you want to have a sushi chef come to your Airbnb and prepare something, you can do that. Or even book experiences in the town, like go to a museum with someone that's actually going to give you a tour, like really trying to be an all-in-one vacation or trip resource. So not only where you stay, but also what you do. And I'll put a link to Jason's article in Inc. because he was there. And Brian Chesky, have you interviewed him before?
Twice, actually. Yeah, there's two. I've done 2 podcast interviews with Brian.
Okay, all right. So tell me, what was it like being at the event? I saw a lot of YouTubers there, a lot of press. What was it like?
Well, okay, so like the meta discussion, what it's like to be at the event. They do a good job. They definitely wanted a lot of attention on this, and this is a pretty big update for Airbnb. They do these releases twice a year, essentially, and this was their summer release. They did an event. They invited a bunch of people to LA for this, and they invited there's a lot of names you'd recognize that were there at the event, and Brian it was not a very long, I have to say, like a half an hour maybe, got on stage, talked through all of this stuff, but it had very, very like Steve Jobs live keynote vibes to it. Like it was the same, it was that kind of thing. And so there was really, you could break it down into essentially 3 categories. They released a new app. So just on its own, the app got a redesign. And
that's like out now?
Yep.
Okay.
The point of the redesign was to enable all these other things that they are rolling out, these services and experiences. But even just if you didn't care about any of that, the app actually got quite a bit better. And you can tell, like, Brian Chesky is not a tech founder; he's a designer, right? Like he'll tell you that, like he went to Rhode Island School of Design. He's not a coder. He's not like that. That's just not his thing. He cares a lot about the experience design and the overall design, and that really comes through in the app. Also, Johnny Ive is doing stuff for them, so there's a lot of Johnny Ive fingerprints all over this.
Johnny Ive was there.
Johnny Ive was there. Yep, Johnny Ive was there. Angela Ahrens, who used to be the head of retail, was there. She's on the board, and so. But the other things that the kind of the headline features were services and experiences. Now, experiences they actually rolled out a while ago and nobody cared. Just like didn't work.
Okay.
This is different now. But the services is kind of like, Airbnb looked at their weakness is if you book a hotel, you can get room service. They might have a restaurant. They might have breakfast. They might have a gym or a spa. And so Airbnb is basically allowing you now to book all those things. You mentioned like you can book a chef, right? And in a lot of cities, I think the services are rolling out to like 260 cities right now. And it's like, I need to book a photographer or makeup artist or a chef or prepared meals. There's a category, I think there's 10 categories right now that you can book along with your stay. And one of the interesting things that Airbnb did is you can actually book those things even if you didn't book a house, right? So you, Steven, in Tampa, I don't actually know if Tampa's a city, but like, let's just pretend for a second that it is, could just book a chef to come to your house, even though you're not staying at an Airbnb, you're just staying at Steven's house, right? Like, so you can book these things even if you're not traveling.
So I just went to the Airbnb website, experiences nearby. You can do this right now. And yeah, you can do all.
So
of
those
this.
are experiences. Not I was talking about we were still talking about services first of all, but that's okay. Like
right.
The second piece are yes, you can book these experiences, and the idea of the experiences is, if you go to Paris or you go somewhere, you might look up like a travel blog, top things you should do, and you discover that everybody who went to town that day looked up the same travel blog, and everyone's there, right? And so it's kind of like this is the touristy version. Well, what Airbnb is rolling out it's kind of like visit the cities like the locals do. So you could book an experience where you go and you do a ramen tasting with a Michelin-starred chef in Tokyo, or you could tour the Cathedral of Notre Dame with one of the architects who helped restore it, or you might one of the experiences might be like touring a museum with a paint restoration expert or something like that. Like there's just all these different cool experiences, and then within the experiences they have these things called Airbnb Originals, and this is where it gets weird and kind of wild. Because, for example, the list of things they rolled out for Airbnb Originals are like go throw a football with Patrick Mahomes and then have Kansas City barbecue with him afterwards, or get glammed up with Sabrina Carpenter, or there's just all of these. Or there was
they should have put you in that experience, Jason. I wanted to see you get glammed up with Sabrina.
No. Now, there were a number of experiences that they took people on while I was there. And one of them was yoga, and I was super thankful that they did not put me in that group. Very, very thankful. The one that I ended up doing that they sent us on was a listening party with Chance the Rapper. So it was this sort of interactive, there's sort of this like light experience. I'm not going to do a good enough explaining it. Very cool. You kind of spend some time doing it, and then you listen to this. I think most of them were unreleased songs, and then he took questions, talked to everybody about it. So that was very cool. But the point of these Airbnb Originals, the reason I said it gets kind of weird is I don't know how much availability Patrick Mahomes has to have people come over and throw a football with him, right? Like it doesn't feel like that's the kind of thing that he's going to do a lot of. So maybe this is just marketing, right? It's like there was one with Megan Thee Stallion. Like it's like, I don't know how much it's not. I don't want to say it's not real. I'm just saying like that's not scalable, right?
No,
only a small number of people are going to do it. And I was trying to compare. I was looking at the Cameo. Are you familiar with the Cameo app? That service where you can basically
pay somebody to say happy birthday,
or whatever like that, or good job on that test. You didn't fail. Good job. But you look at the list of celebs that are in there, and the person I met in Miami, not on that list, right? None of the people who are at this Airbnb are on the Cameo app. It's like, these are people who were like doing really well 20 years ago. And it's like, maybe I'll take $50 to make a quick video to send to somebody. But most of the people you would want to send your kid a happy birthday, like Tony Hawk is not on there if your kid's into skateboarding, right? Like,
right.
So I was trying to figure out like, the people who have the bandwidth to be interacting with fans on a regular basis are on the Cameo app, and they're not famous anymore. The people that Airbnb got to do this, I'm like, I don't know how much of a thing this is actually going to be, is what I'm trying to say.
Sorry. Now that when you mentioned Cameo, I was a little distracted because I was very curious.
Who's on Cameo right now?
Because apparently YouTubers is a category that you can filter by. And
I don't know who any of those people are.
I've seen this guy on TikTok. He's like a workout guy. I really like this guy. He does like he's a firefighter, and he reenacts basically wild like 911 calls that he's done. Let's see, is MKBHD on here? No.
That's what I'm saying. Like the
Jason Ayton.
He's not on there anymore.
I don't think any of these guys are you. So anyway, it makes sense as the next step for a company like Airbnb, because I have booked some Airbnbs in the past, and you do feel a little bit like on your own as opposed to when you go to a hotel and you have all the whatever amenities, even if it's just like a restaurant. I'm curious the cost of some of these. Like, is this going to be cost effective?
So like you could do they're trying to keep that at a reasonable price point. So for example, you could do a chef for $50 a person. Personal chef for $50 a person for a family of 6 seems kind of expensive to me. Like I'm like, man, I could just, go to Chick-fil-A and it does not cost me $50 a person. But also like if you're the type of family that would be an enjoyable experience to have a personal chef come, like you're not paying for the food at that point. You're paying for the experience.
And I just looked, apparently here in Tampa, you can book this, a private dining with award-winning chef. This is Chef Brittany, 10 years of experience. $20 a guest for handmade pasta experience, but it looks like maybe you'll make your own, like she'll walk you through making your pasta, or $140 per guest for la jeunesse. I don't know what that is, so I don't think I'm fancy enough for that, but...
Yeah. I don't know either, but I am going to be honest that paying $120 a guest and you have to make your own pasta doesn't actually feel like a great deal.
Maybe she's making the pasta.
I will come to your house and you make your own food.
Jason, you should be on this Airbnb experience. And listen, I'll come to your house and I'll show you how to make some pasta.
Yeah, I will. And I'm going to do like tech support. So when you come to an Airbnb somewhere and you need to like set the Wi-Fi doesn't work, you can just call me and I'm going to just come to the Airbnb and be like, unplug it and plug it back in.
This is fascinating. This is all live, right? Like the experience.
Like so some of the Airbnb originals are like coming in the future kind of thing. Right. The other thing I was going to just mention, so a part of their app redesign, and I actually think this could be the most interesting long-term thing for Airbnb. I interviewed Jay Carney, who's like their head of policy and communications. He was Barack Obama's press secretary, and then he was the head of communications for Amazon for like 7 years. So he's a pretty savvy guy. He's been in the Silicon Valley for a while, and I just asked him like, do you expect this to be as big of a business as people renting out their house, right? And the reality is probably not, except there is a limit to the number of hosts that they can have on their platform, just in terms of like there's a limit to the number of people who own houses. But this is a multiplying factor for how many different people they can get onto the platform to do other things. That's true. And one of the interesting things that they did is in the new app, they basically, so they're rolling out messaging. And they're kind of building in a social network into the app. And I'm always super skeptical because everybody wants to build a social network into an app. But what they did is, let's say that you go on this like ramen tasting in Tokyo and you and your wife go and there's 6 other people that are there. You get put into essentially like in your profile, you could go back to that experience and now you can stay connected to those people. You can share photos from that event. You can message them in the Airbnb app. All of it's happening right there. And I actually think that that's kind of cool because the kind of relationship you would build with people on an experience like that is different. You don't necessarily want to give them all your phone number, right? Like it's not like handing out your iMessage. But I do think that is actually going to be a powerful thing for people. It's like shared experiences create connections that you wouldn't otherwise have. Right. And just to be able to continue that, I think that there might be something there.
It feels like the first social feature that's actually social. Most of the time, a social network is just people broadcasting things, and then other people maybe replying, but interaction. But to actually have had an experience with some people in person, hopefully something that you enjoyed doing, and obviously whoever you were with does these kinds of things. Yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense. Connecting these people,
and it's social in the sense that you actually had a real world experience with these people. These are not just people who you friended on Facebook because you were scrolling through profiles and you're like, that person looks interesting.
Yeah, wait. You just scroll around and just to friend people.
I have not added a friend on Facebook in 10 years. I don't even. I'll be honest. Every time I get a friend request on Facebook, I'm like, are we still really doing that? Like,
I assume it's spam. I just assume it's spam. Even if it's someone I completely recognize, it's their profile picture. I'm like, that's probably spam.
I'm like, I'm 45. My friend list is set. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need any more friends.
The door is closed. Okay, the gate is down. But one thing you had said before we started recording, and I saw others on social media who were at the Airbnb event say, is Apple really needs to go back to in-person, on-stage presentations. And Apple, I think, is one of the last holdouts since COVID to continue the video event. Google I/O is next week, and the last couple Google I/Os have been live people on stage doing live demos. Microsoft events, live people on stage doing demos. Even the Amazon Echo event recently, live people on stage. And so even after this, the Airbnb one where Brian Chesky was on stage, again, Mark Zuckerberg, he's on stage whenever they have announced stuff recently. I think it's time. Do you think it's time Apple go back to live?
Yeah, and I mean, they do in-person events, obviously, like WWDC is an in-person event, but it's not a live event. I mean, correct. Tim Cook will come out and be like, good morning. And then, we're so excited that you're here. And then we watch a video. It's the same video that everybody else can see. It's not like, I think Apple does the pre-recorded thing better than anybody did. And so I think it's going to be real hard for them because they are so invested in controlling the story and the narrative. And the thing is, they don't have anyone, even Craig Federighi, they don't have anyone who is as good at the live event as Steve Jobs was.
Craig Federighi's close, though, because Craig has done a lot of live demos.
He's still not nearly as good overall at the thing that Steve Jobs was. Like, Craig Federighi's good. He's got a great personality, very charismatic. John Turnus, very charismatic, like very good.
Sure.
But they do not. We're watching them on a video, and I've seen Federighi live at different interviews. Last 2 years ago, maybe it was, he did the live interview with Justine and a couple of John Gianandrea and stuff. He's good, but it's just not as natural as Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs just had a different level of charisma and personality. And Tim Cook definitely is not that. And a lot of the presenters that Apple uses are not like that. So I think you would see less of them. I think you would see like 3 or 4 people on the stage. But I think that it is like even Google I/O that I'm going to next week is mostly a live event, right? Like, so everyone else has gone back to that.
I just think, the demos that Apple used to do, like last year when they were doing Apple Intelligence and the semantic index for the assistant, I think maybe that would have had a natural filter because they wouldn't have been able to demo some things on stage. And so maybe this year it would almost be a proof of legitimacy. I don't know. Like, go back to some live demos. I feel like they could even mix and match some things, do like a live intro, live announcements for iOS, live demos. But then maybe when you go to Johnny Cerrugi down in the basement talking about the chips, show a video of Johnny Cerrugi. That's fine. Or if you want to talk about watchOS and what is it, Kevin, who's the watchOS guy? He used to be at Adobe. Kevin Lynch?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Kevin Lynch. If you're going to have Kevin Lynch on a beach somewhere because he's talking about Apple Watch and diving in the water, like, do that. But I think doing some live demos, I don't think it's going to be this year. But it will, again, bring back, I think, some legitimacy and like, oh, okay, yeah, let's show this stuff off live. And I think Craig Federighi could do it. There's probably a lot of people inside Apple. I feel like there's probably some charismatic, and no one will ever be Steve Jobs. Although I don't know, maybe that's not accurate to say. Maybe there'll be someone that's charismatic.
I mean, Brian Chesky is pretty good. Like, Brian Chesky had the same kind of a vibe.
Yeah,
there's a point in time I'm like, I wonder if he's available for a job. I don't know. Like, but
Brian Chesky is different. Like, I feel like he has an intensity that, I don't know, it works for him. Because I've listened to him a lot of podcasts. He's been on Decoder a couple times. Obviously, you've interviewed him. I feel like it's a different vibe than Apple. You know what I mean?
I would argue though that his overall approach to products and the way he tells the story about them is closer to Steve Jobs than probably anybody at Apple currently.
Okay. All right. Well,
and it was one of the things I thought that was really funny is he's like, I'm going to pull up an iPhone now. And he's like, so this is a real life demo. Like almost like throwing some. Yeah, he actually said that in the thing. Shoot. That's shade. Now, it was interesting because he went back to the demo several times. Now, he could have been picking up different phones. That's entirely possible. I didn't pay that close of attention. But every time he did it, so for the services, then for the experiences, and then to talk about the profiles and stuff, like the recent searches was slightly different. So I'm like, maybe he was picking up a different phone each time, right? Because it was like, oh, now we're going to go to Tokyo, and Tokyo showed up in the recent searches thing. So there was something going on there. It wasn't exact. Like
maybe
so
it was different VPNs.
No, I guess what I'm saying is like I watched your last interaction and the only thing that showed up there was Paris, and now all of a sudden Tokyo is one of your recent searches. So I'm like, is there someone else somewhere logged into your Airbnb account? And when you put the phone down, searches for Tokyo so it'll appear at the top, which is, I guess, entirely possible. But either way, they pulled it off very well.
See, but that's also the kind of magic. I mean, I still love hearing the stories about like the original iPhone demo and like the phone call just like hanging by a thread, and it just barely made it through demo. But also like pinch to zoom. Doing that demo live on stage was huge. And even like cover flow, which some people are like still bringing back. I don't know. Some of those things that's what plays really well live. And it probably would feel less weird to applaud at someone demoing on stage than a video, right? I don't, because no one applauds at the videos, right? Like when there's an announcement. At WWDC.
It depends on what's happening. Like
the calculator app. Did people applaud when they announced the calculator for the iPad?
I think people were pretty excited.
Okay, all right.
I mean, more excited than they were when they realized there weren't going to be apps on the Vision Pro.
What do you mean apps?
I mean, is Netflix on there yet?
Oh, well, YouTube still. Oh, I'm glad you said that because we do have some visionOS 3.0 rumors I just want to touch on later, but you still use it every day?
Pretty much. I mean, I didn't.
Still?
Here's the thing. I don't take it when I'm traveling, so I feel a little bit disingenuous.
Which is insane. Which is
it's not Steven, I travel a lot more than you, and I have never, ever seen a human being with a Vision Pro on an airplane.
Have you ever seen have you ever seen another human being with a Vision Pro, period, outside of California?
But what you're saying, though, is that people should be wearing them on planes, and I'm saying no one does that except for YouTubers. The people, the Venn diagram of people who make YouTube videos and people who are willing to wear Vision Pro on a plane is one circle.
I saw a video yesterday. I think it was from...
You can't even argue with that.
Well, I saw it from the Washington Post, and they were saying, like, here are the 5 gadgets you need when you travel. And the dude was like, I fly 5 straight days a year, like 130 hours. And he basically said AirPods Pro, AirPods Max. He had an Anchor charger. He said this and that. And then I was waiting to see if he was going to say the Vision Pro or something else. And he talked about the X Real glasses, which just look like weird glasses that have the screen in between, and those are the ones he recommended.
And those are basically just like a display for your computer, right?
Yes, but just way more discreet than a Vision Pro.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, last side note, and then we'll move on to iOS and Apple Maps and stuff. Did you see the Price is Right Vision Pro thing?
Yeah, nobody knows how much that thing costs.
It was a recent Price is Right episode, and they had the Vision Pro, and all the contestants guessed like $1,000. I think the most someone guessed was like $1,200. and then what's his face? Is it Drew? What is his name?
Yeah. But I think Apple seeded that question as market research. They wanted to know, what do people actually think this thing should cost? I think it was brilliant. If you think about it that way, it was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, real quick, iOS 18.5 came out earlier this week for everyone. You got updates on all your devices. All my HomePods are still stuck in limbo, so that's usually what happens with an iOS update, which is cool. But one feature, which I think is good, and it's just nice to know that Apple has not forgotten that screen time exists. And
this is the best thing Apple has introduced.
Yes.
In like 5 years.
Well, and because screen time hasn't changed in 5 years.
No, but Steven, I have to write about this.
Yeah, you should.
I was listening to some podcast. I don't know what one it was. And they just said like, oh, and this thing happened. And I took out my AirPods and I just yelled at my daughter, you are so busted, because we have one child who she's been good lately, but we have a child who is very good at getting around screen time. It's not hard. It's totally just the honor system, whether or not this thing works or not. And now she'll never be able to do it again.
So this update, basically, there is a settings toggle in screen time, but it's on by default when you update to iOS 18.5, where if you have a child device and screen time is enabled and you're managing screen time from your account, if they put in the screen time passcode, you'll get a notification on your device that the screen time passcode was used on that named of device. Now, there's a lot of things that would be nice to have in this kind of notification, like rather than just say the device name, actually say the iCloud account, because a lot of my kids' devices are just like iPad 3 or just like iPhone 2. So that would be nice. It also does not send you a notification if they put it in incorrectly. So if they tried to put in the screen time passcode but it failed, you don't get a notification. You don't know that. Which, again, if you have a child who's trying like do a dozen times a day and just failing, then maybe it's good you don't get that notification. But if they put it in successfully, you will get notified that they put it in, which then reveals that they know the screen time passcode. And what you thought was secret is not anymore. So, nice addition. I'm glad it's there, but also hopefully they do more with screen time. I still wish, I don't know if you still feel this way, ever since screen time app requests and other requests went into messages, it's just been not great. And I advocated for a long time on the Apple Insider Show and then here for a standalone password app, and we did finally get it. We have a standalone password app now. I'm going to begin advocating or continue for a standalone screen time app. One, because there's a ton of settings in the screen time stuff that's buried in the settings app, and most parents have no idea how to manage it. That's why I have videos from 4 years ago that still do really well, because I explain that whole process. It should be a standalone app. This way, notifications that have to do with screen time can all be managed in that one app. the requests from different your kids or whoever else is in your screen time. So standalone screen time app, hopefully iOS 19 or 20. We'll see.
Steven, do you know how many times I try to go in and like set app limits on my kids' phone? And a few hours later, I open Instagram and have to put in my own password because I realize I just set the limits on my own account because it's so confusing
It's
sometimes.
confusing.
But do you know what? This basically, this is the best feature Apple has done for screen time, maybe ever. But do you realize that what this just means is we can't figure out how to make it better, so we're just going to let you know when your kids are getting around it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still really bad when it comes to sometimes the restrictions just turn off. You know, like your web restrictions, it's just like, no, you can just access. And again, thankfully, I mean, my kids are like, hey, I can access every website ever, just so you know. So, yeah, but at least we know Apple has not forgotten about the feature. So that's nice.
Like, we just can't fix it. Screw it. We'll just tell you when your kids are doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And also, Apple announced a couple of other things. We'll talk about the accessibility features in a little bit. But Apple added more information to Maps, including Michelin guides and things from the Infatuation and Golf Digest. I'd never heard of the Infatuation, but apparently that's a thing. But you can look at the Michelin guides right now. It's available just in select cities. So this is not something where it's going to show you Michelin restaurants in every city, which, again...
I mean, there are not Michelin restaurants in every city. That was one of the points
Florida
that I made to Airbnb. I was like, there are no Michelin-starred chefs in Michigan. So who's coming to my house to do this dinner for me?
Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper is just doing all the experiences.
He's just going to bring Kit Kats over.
Hey, that'd be pretty good.
That's how I had to explain to my wife who Chance the Rapper was. I had to show her the Kit Kat ad that he did. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't listen to a lot of Chance the Rapper. But as soon as I showed her the Kit Kat, I wonder how much he got paid for that because...
All the money.
All the money.
All the money. This is what the guide looks like. This is Miami, which is the only city in Florida that has it. But you can browse Michelin star restaurants and see it on Maps. That's pretty much it.
But at least they're doing something, like they're making this product better. And the reason is because there's a very good alternative out there, which is made by Google. Although, to be fair, Apple Maps' overall user interface 100 billion times better than Google Maps, because Google Maps, you open it and you're like, I think that there's a map underneath all of these ads, but I can't actually find it.
I know. And that I posted anyway. Yeah, I agree. I will say I went through the car wash yesterday and the person was saying, hey, we're doing a survey and it's a competition. We're trying to like see which attendant gets the most surveys. And it would mean a lot if you did it. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll do it. So what they gave me was a business card with their name on it and a QR code. And I expected the QR code to go to like a form or something. Scanning the QR code sent you straight to the business listing in Google Maps. And what they wanted you to do was leave a rating in Google Maps for their business. And while Apple has come a long way and they still have the weird Yelp integration. So like when you see a star rating in Apple Maps, it's really just Yelp. And you can do the thumbs up, thumbs down. And sometimes for restaurants or businesses, you'll see like Apple's percentage rating. Google Maps is still the de facto when it comes to like businesses that want reviews so other people will come to that business or go eat at that restaurant. Google Maps still has a stranglehold on that part of the ecosystem. And I don't know what Apple can do. It just needs to buy Yelp if it needs to, like, yeah, because it incentivizes you. Like if I'll search for a restaurant in Maps and maybe get directions to it, sometimes I'll see something in Maps that says like, hey, why don't you rate this or let us know how your experience was? But it's obviously not garnering the same amount of data as Google Maps. And like you're saying, I see on social media, and a lot of people say they prefer Apple Maps now to Google Maps with the UI and design. But when it comes to business information, it's still not there.
Well, and if you think about it, it's because all of these small businesses are already using like Google Workspace. And so the integrations are already there. Apple has this. Apple has Apple Business Connect. I bet you that 85% of small businesses have no idea that it exists because you can go in. You're right. By default, Apple will just show you like Yelp photos of stuff, but you don't have to have that. You can go in and upload your own photos as a small business. It's just most small businesses don't know that that's the thing.
There was actually a business that I frequented, and whenever you try to search for it in Apple Maps, it would send you to the wrong place because they weren't listed in Apple Maps. In Google Maps, obviously, it would tell you where they were. And I would tell the owner, like, hey, I can help you get on, like, this is free. You can just go to this website and you can list your business in Apple Maps, and then people can find you and they'll be like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Didn't do it for years. I think eventually, I don't know if Apple Maps did it. I don't know what happened, but eventually they got on there. But
they thought you were trying to sell them something.
Maybe. I'm not trying to sell you anything. We're going to talk about Google announcing a bunch of Android features, and they also announced something about watchOS, which I feel like shows how right you were about something that you've said on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm taking my points.
Yeah, you're gonna take your point when we get to that. And also, they had a big rebrand, a big redesign. That's a little tongue-in-cheek. We're going to talk about that too. But before we do, we have a couple sponsors to thank this week. You, all the members who support us directly, thank you. You're just going to get right over to the next chapter. But which you can support the show, $5 a month, $50 a year, directly on Apple Podcast or at join.primarytech.fm. You get ad-free bonus episodes and soon daily episodes. But we want to thank our sponsors. The first one being Insta360's X5 camera. If you ever see those videos on social media where people are doing like skiing or cool things, jet skiing, all the skiing. I don't know why I can only think of skiing activities right now. You can do or canoeing, kayaking, all water sports, but rock climbing, all the things. You ever see that wild camera angle where you see all around the person, but they are seemingly not holding anything because the selfie stick is invisible? They're using a 360 camera. They're using the Insta360, and the 360 X5 is the new flagship 360-degree camera. It's got 8K 360 video, 185-minute battery life, and it has fun features like that invisible selfie stick. So you get those impossible third-person views, and you can shoot first, point later. So if people ask how you get that third-person angle, like I was just saying, or drone-like follow shots, the pole disappears. That's that selfie stick. Also, they have new quick ways to edit and share your videos using the quick edit, using AI to automatically highlight and detect and make compilations of your footage, which is wild. Plus, the X5 now has tougher optical glass. The lenses have superior drop resistance capability. And this is the first, you can now easily replace them, you yourself as the user, thanks to a handy replacement lens kit, which is wild. Also, a huge battery. Like I said, over 3 hours of filming in endurance mode, plus a built-in wind guard for improved audio. It's an awesome camera. So, to bag a free selfie stick, the invisible selfie stick worth $25 with your Insta360 X5 package now, head to store.insta360.com and use the promo code PRIMARY, available for the first 30 standard package purchases only. So go there now. That link will be in the show notes. You can just click it there. But it is promo code PRIMARY at store.insta360.com. For more information, be sure to check out the links below. Our thanks to Insta360 for sponsoring this episode, and our friends at 1Password. You know, as I was thinking about the 1Password ad and extended access management, did you ever have in like elementary school or whatever, like the wooden block when you had to go to the bathroom or whatever? The hall?
The hall pass you're talking about?
The hall pass, yeah, the hall pass. Do you remember that? Did you ever have the wooden thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah, I remember
like they'd just have some weird like kitchen spoon thing that you'd be like, here, this is the hall pass. Like basically it's like you put a thing, but you have to attach it to something large that no one can steal. Cause it's like,
Yes, exactly. Well, and that's what I feel like when a company gives their employees a device and they say, yeah, use it for all your work stuff, but then it's hamstrung by all the weird IT stuff and lockdowns. It's basically like saying you got to have this big old wooden hall pass every time you want to do something. Like you got to ask the teacher, give me the block, and then I can walk down the hall. I don't know if it's a perfect analogy, but I'm going with it. It's a thing. It is a thing. It is an analogy. But there's a better way to do that, which is 1Password Extended Access Management. It's the first security solution that brings unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control, and it ensures that every user credential is strong and protected. Every device is known and healthy. This way, you can give your employees devices. You can know that they're secure and locked down and they're not going to get malware and all that other stuff, but it will be usable by the employee. They'll actually be able to get their work done. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional mobile device managers and IAMs can't. It's security for the way we work today, and now it's generally available to companies with Okta, Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. I've had to manage many devices over the years in different businesses, and I know it can be frustrating for an employee. So whether you're in charge of that at your business or you know someone who is, tell them about 1Password Extended Access Management. Secure every app, device, and identity, even the unmanaged ones, at 1password.com/primarytech, all lowercase. That's 1password.com/primarytech. And that link is in our show notes as well. Our thanks to 1Password for sponsoring this episode. So Google had a bunch of announcements this week having to do with Android, Wear OS. They still have Google I/O next week, so we're going to hear even more stuff next week. But they did like a pre-event. I don't know. What did they? I mean, it's just. It was just.
Here's what we know. All they're going to talk about next week is.
We're going to have to do a word. Don't do a drinking game every time they say Gemini take a drink, because you will die. You'll probably die.
You'll be over before the event begins.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that makes sense. I get it. Like that's especially because Google Gemini it's out there. Like it's farther ahead in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Gemini, I think is 2.5 is probably the best model for a lot of things right now. Google's certainly able to do some things that our friends in Cupertino have not figured out yet. So
it's Cupertino. But before we even talk about watchOS 9 and the Android redesign, Google rebranded. It's the G logo.
They didn't rebrand. They just tweaked the logo.
No. This is a totally different brand. This used to be the old G logo with the hard lines in between each color. And what they did, I think Basic Apple guy said this, they basically selected that layer and turned on the Gaussian blur and blurred the colors together. So now it's kind of a gradient. That's brave. I mean, courageous.
Well, actually, here's the thing. You and I had this conversation recently. I am opposed to companies tweaking their logos because they don't really need to. The only exception I will say to that is, and this was actually I was thinking about I don't know if you listen to the HEP member episodes, but they S tier.
I was listening to the game system one.
But they tier ranked a bunch of company logos, right? And you go back in time and you look at like Microsoft's logo, Pepsi's logo, all these different companies' logos, and they do signify different periods of the company. And Google is definitely entering a new period of this company, right? In a lot of ways, it may not they may not have Chrome in 2 years. Like who knows what's happening?
Well,
like they may be licensing their search deal or their search data here soon. In that sense, I actually think they handled it pretty well because they basically just took the same logo and they just tweaked it. It's like it's not a different font, it's not different colors, it's not a different shape. It's just
crazy. So what you're saying is, being against rebranding as a whole, Apple should have never rebranded from this.
So hold on though. There's a difference between a rebrand and changing your logo. Your logo and your brand are not. I just want to be clear about the difference. I know I'm being very pedantic about this, but. Yeah. I definitely don't think that was a good logo, the original Apple logo, just to be honest.
Honestly, that Isaac Newton is epic. I mean, not as a logo.
It is a fantastic piece of art. It is a terrible.
It's art. But Apple did rebrand because it was originally Apple Computer Inc. And I think it was around 2007 or 8. They rebranded to just Apple Inc. But that, I mean, I assume you would be okay with that. I mean, that made sense.
But again, so it was. They did it I think they did it the same day they announced the iPhone. I'm pretty sure. Because I think it was like 2007 when they changed it to Apple Inc. Because it was like, we're no longer just a computer company, right? Because they literally.
It was January 2007. You're right. Yeah.
But again, well, whatever. I don't want to argue about what it means to rebrand. But changing that name from Apple Inc., like a rebrand is when Netflix decided that the mail order DVD things was going to be called Quickster. Do you remember those days? It did not last very long.
I had DVDs. I did have the DVD playing.
They changed their mind very quickly, which is a theme we're going to get to here in a little while. But anyway, whatever. Yeah, I think when Apple changed from Apple Computer to Apple, like that's like when AT&T changed from whatever American Telegraph and Telecommunications, which everyone just abbreviated as AT&T, and now they're like, actually, the name is just AT&T.
Ma Bell. They should have rebranded as Ma Bell. That would have been it. So Google did also announce changes to Android, specifically redesign or a new design language, which does feel like this happens every other year, where Android's like, we have a new look, fresh new coat of paint, and it's fine. They're trying to reach the the younger demographic. What is it, Gen Z? Because the iPhone still has such a mind space, at least here in the US, when it comes to teenagers and around that age. And so Google is hoping that this Android coat of paint will be attractive to younger demographics. It still looks pretty Android to me. It's fine. I have a Pixel that I pull it out every once in a while just to see what it's doing. But I also have, and I still have yet to make a video about this. I need to do it. The Nothing 3A. And I will just say, when it comes to like interesting ideas and kind of like fun whatevers, I kind of like what Nothing has done besides what Apple or what Google has done with Android. But anyway, I don't know, some little different.
Well, and the important thing about the Material 3 is it's not just Google's design language for how it presents things. It's sort of its customization layer and how it allows people. And I don't think that we could argue that Google isn't doing a better job with Android of that than Apple, right? I mean, Apple is like, oh yeah, 100%. Google is so far, Android is so far ahead of iOS in that particular aspect. And I think it's like, take for example the fact that you can't put the clock where you want on your phone. Like I'm not saying that those things are important. I'm just saying you can't make it is so far ahead.
You can't put stuff in the middle.
It is so far ahead of that. And so for people who that is important, Android does a very good job of that. I mean, on Apple, it's like you can have 3 widgets on your lock screen and they only go here. Whereas Google's like, YOLO, do what you want. It's fine.
Yeah, and they also allow you to change your font, and people make it look horrendous. But if you want to do that,
I'm not saying that what people do with it is going to be good. I'm just suggesting that
they offer the tools.
That's the thing that you care about, that's what this is. That's what this is for.
Well, it's even like icon packs. I don't know if Google does this with Android proper, like the vanilla version of Android, but on the Nothing phone, there's actually an option to just give it an icon pack and then select that icon pack, and it will just change all the icons in one step, where I made an elaborate shortcut to try and do that, which is still cumbersome and a pain in the neck. So even in that regard, if you want to do custom icons on iPhone, it is an hours-long process. It really needs to be a labor of love because you really want custom icons.
Yeah.
But Android does that.
There's a reason Widgetsmith was the most popular app in the universe for a period of time, and it's because finally
that is true.
You could do things that you could never do before.
It is true. But there was also another thing they announced, which this is a huge point for Jason. Wear OS 6, which is Google's wearable operating system, is going to bring Google Gemini AI to the watch. And you've been saying this for a long time.
I mean, I haven't said anything. I didn't even know Google made a watch, but I have been saying that the watch, it's not true. I did know that Google made a watch, but that the watch is the device. That's where these things, if you're going to talk to a device that you're wearing, you don't need a pin. You don't need a rabbit that goes in your pocket or whatever. Like, just the watch. Just make it the watch. And I think don't you think the Apple Watch Series 10 and the Ultra 2 should be capable of doing this?
It definitely should be. I mean, it feels plenty fast, even if it is just communicating with your phone, which it was saying in the Verge article, the watch does need Wi-Fi or LTE. Like, it is not using some on-device model.
No, yeah. So, but most people's watches are either connected to their phone or connected to the internet.
Right.
We've solved that problem. Like, make it so that I can chat at my wrist. I don't even have my watch on. That's really weird. Anyway, talk to my wrist and have it do its thing.
Yeah. Which, did you know, I actually saw, I'm going to do a video on this. Did you know for setting a timer, if you have the raise to speak enabled on your Apple Watch, you can literally just say a time and it will set a timer for that time. You don't have to say set a timer. Did you know that?
I believe that that's true, but I just, no, I did not know that.
All I did was say 5 minutes. Look at that. All I did was say 5 minutes to my Apple Watch, and it started a 5-minute timer. I didn't know you could do that.
And do you know what Apple does better than Google in this regard? That when you say set a timer for a blank amount of time, once it figures it out, it takes it a couple seconds, but it starts the timer based on when you told it to do it. Whereas if you set a timer on a Google device, you're like, hey, Google, set a timer for 5 minutes.
Oh, I got to drop a marker to mute that. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just let everybody's Google just set timer.
So now it's telling me I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and now the timer has started, and now everything's boiled over. It's like
your muffins are burnt.
This is not useful. But but like, it can't be. So Apple's already doing this. If you pick up your phone and you're like, ask ChatGPT what the weather's going to be like tomorrow, my phone isn't doing anything. It's already sending it to the cloud anyway. So
Right,
why
right.
can't my watch do that?
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'm for it. I'm for it. One other Androidy thing before I want to talk about the iOS 19 accessibility features. The Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge is out there in the wild. I'll link to MKBHD's video. He didn't call it a full review. He was just kind of talking about first impressions because it looks like they just got it. But Samsung is first to the thin phone revolution, I guess. And we're expecting to see iPhone 17 Air soon as well. He has concerns, like he said in the video, about battery life, which you would think from a very thin phone. But it's also like in kind of like a mid-tier. He said it's kind of in between the Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus and the Pro. So it kind of has like slightly better features than the base model. But it's very thin. It's a very thin phone. We'll see if people like it.
I feel like we're now entering our skinny jeans phase of phones. So does that mean we eventually end up with really baggy, high-waisted? I'm just saying, like are we going to go to mom jeans eventually? Like the phone?
No, we're going to go to bell bottoms, where just the bottom of phones are super wide. Or maybe reverse bell bottoms.
Skinny jeans came after bell bottoms. I'm just saying.
Everything goes for full circle. You could always
it's
say,
just weird that.
Why is your speaker still listening to you? Was that a HomePod or your?
I think that was a HomePod. I don't even know what was talking to me.
Jason's assistants are becoming sentient. They're gonna attack. So anyway, it's out there. We'll see what actual full reviews say about it. But the thin phones are here.
Do we want them?
I don't think I want them.
Are you buying a thin phone next year? This year?
I'm going to buy one to make a video, but it's probably not going to be the one I use as my full-time phone. I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I'm going to go Pro or Pro Max this year. I don't know. Because
you have a Pro Max now, right?
I have a Pro Max right now. It's large. It's very large. But, better battery life. Also, because of I make all the videos, the screen's bigger. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Speaking of things that everybody gets, though, for their next iPhone. iOS 19, I think it's been the last 3 or 4 years, Apple has done, because World Accessibility Day is May 15th. Actually, today, I think, as we're recording.
Yep.
And so Apple announces new accessibility features ahead of WWDC, and they've done it again this year with iOS 19. They have a really fun video about some of these significant features coming in iOS 19. Accessibility nutrition labels. So if you recall, if you go in the App Store, there's the privacy nutrition labels talking about what data apps will take from you if you install the app and use it. Well, now there's going to be accessibility nutrition labels telling you what it supports, like voiceover, reduced motion, things like that. So that's a welcome addition. Also, a new magnifier on Mac, which you can either use your phone and point it towards like a book or something, and it will show you magnified text digitally live on the Mac, which is really cool. I mean, that's super fun. So you get that. There's a new Braille experience. And when I posted about this, there was some confusion because people were like, how is the iPhone going to do Braille on its display? And it's not exactly the case. It can work together with Braille displays, so like external devices, but it's also going to have ways to input things in Braille. I'm really sorry because I have no experience with this, but I'm not sure what the exact terminology is. But Braille screen input with a connected Braille device and Braille access where users can quickly take notes in Braille format and perform calculations using Nemeth Braille, a Braille code often used in classrooms for math and science. So support for those things. That's super cool. Accessibility reader. This is super fun too because, if you have like a PDF on your iPhone, maybe in the Files app, depending on how that PDF is formatted, you can't really like enlarge the text like you would with an Apple Book or like in Safari. And so accessibility reader is going to take things like a PDF or other files and basically give you like a reader mode, but for that, and you can make the text larger, change the contrast, the colors, I think even speak it, which is very cool. Live captions on Apple Watch. If you've not ever used live captions, I've done videos on this in the past. It's an amazing feature where basically you turn it on, and if someone's speaking to you, it's going to transcribe what they're saying in real time. And it's pretty good. You could do it on your phone now with iOS 18. Well, it's going to be coming to the watch, which feels like an even more accessible device to have that kind of feature on it. Love that. Enhanced view with Apple Vision Pro, which I think 3 people will be able to use, and Jason when he wears it every morning. But that's cool. You can basically like magnify things in the real world and make it large in Apple Vision Pro. That's super fun. And there's a bunch of other smaller additions. Things like vehicle motion cues will be added to the Mac, better eye tracking, head tracking, personal voice, which did you ever try personal voice? Did you ever train the personal voice on yourself?
I did not.
So personal voice, it was one of the best Apple videos, I think, that happened recently, where, if someone was losing the ability to speak, they could train the iPhone to then do text to voice in your voice, and it's supposed to sound like you. Now, personal voice, to train it previously, you had to read 150 statements, and it did not sound very good. Like, it did not sound like me. And I have an 11 Labs professional voice trained on my recordings, and then I did the personal voice on iPhone. The iPhone version doesn't sound anything like me, especially compared to 11 Labs. So I'm curious if it will actually get better at what it sounds like, but they've reduced the training necessary. So rather than 150 phrases that you have to read, there's just 10 phrases that you can speak, and it will supposedly train it based on that. So that's cool. And the last thing, I think, just an interesting point in this Apple Newsroom article, as they were talking about accessibility, at the very bottom, Apple shared its own little shortcut. It talked about the Shortcuts app, and they made a shortcut called Hold That Thought. And it's a shortcut that prompts users to capture and recall information in a note so interruptions don't derail their flow. And you can download it now from the Apple News article, and it runs on Mac and iPhone. I asked Matthew Castanelli to give a quick review, and he said it's actually pretty good, works well. So Apple, they're making shortcuts now. They're getting their competition now on making these. They've made one in the last 10 years. But
that's very anti-competitive of them.
That's all right. I'm down for the competition. Go ahead, Apple. Let's bring it on. Bring on whatever shortcuts you want to make. So that's cool. And then also, did you see the sound therapy stuff that came out?
Yes, I didn't have a lot of time to dig into it, but it was interesting that this came out at a time related to when I went to that listening party thing, because a large part of that was this partnership that he did with Chromasonic, which I don't exactly know what Chromasonic is, except for that we went into this room and there was music playing and there was all of this light, and the frequencies of the music changed the lighting, and then the lighting also changed the music. Like there was this, and so it was like this 20-minute experience that was designed to help you like relax or whatever, based on all this. And so I'm like, oh, I know exactly what. Otherwise, I would have read this and I would have like, I have no idea what they're talking about. But I'm like, oh no, I've experienced sort of this.
And it's kind of like remixes of some songs, but then it's basically just Apple Music playlists. Like you could just add these playlists to your Apple Music and try it out.
Yep.
So curious to see if anybody's done that. I don't know. Have you ever tried the Endel app?
No.
Endel is like this, supposedly an app that tries to predict what kind of atmospheric music will help you focus or give you energy. And I've done it a couple times. Like it's interesting, but yeah. So sound therapy.
Every time I put on music to help me focus, it just makes me tired.
Well, what are you putting on? Sabrina Carpenter?
That does not make me tired. No, I'm just saying because the music that I'm weird because that's just a true statement, period. But like, I just would rather listen to normal music to help me focus, because it just puts me like, but if I'm going to, I think what happens is if I'm listening to something that someone else thinks should help me focus, now I'm thinking more about the music. And then it makes
this
me
helping
like,
me focus?
But it's like, this is not what I would normally be listening to. So it's different and it's weird. And now I just want to go to sleep. So.
Okay, all right. That's
we should move on.
Okay, yeah, we'll move on. visionOS 3, there's some rumors coming out. There's a ton of rumors coming out about like the iPhone 18 and the iPhone 19. Can I just say, let me just ask you real quick, Jason. Do you feel like there's been a rumor timeline inflation in recent years, where I feel like rumors used to just focus on the iPhone that's coming out this year, and then in the last couple of years it's been like, well, here's rumors about not the iPhone 17, but the iPhone 18 coming out next year. And now we're talking about like Apple's product lineup in 2027. Like it's literally been articles that Mark Gurman is talking about on Bloomberg. Yeah, have we gotten timeline inflation?
Wasn't the headline like 2027 is going to be a real big year for Apple?
Yes,
like,
yes, that is literally it.
What?
That's 2 years from now. What is that? Why do we have this inflation? Is it just like there's not enough Apple news right now, and so people are talking about 2020? I don't know.
I feel like I can't really put my mind on why someone would leak that information unless it's to be intentional on Apple's behalf, because it's like you could see a scenario where some executive is like, we need the world to know that we're still doing some things over here, even though we're in the middle of getting like sued, or we're going to lose search. We're going to lose $20 billion from search. We're going to use $10 billion from the App Store because of all this stuff that's happening. But 2027, it's going to be a real big year. So you all just sit tight and give us some time.
2 years. I don't know. It just feels like we have a timeline inflation. I don't know. But okay. Well, visionOS 3, supposedly, this is a rumor, it's going to let you scroll using just your eyes. So rather than having to, do the pinch and swipe up in the floating in the air, you can scroll by looking, I guess. So
I don't know if I like that, because my eyes need to move around the screen in order to consume what's on it, but I don't necessarily want the screen to move. Like, this just makes me feel like I'm going to throw up.
Maybe it's like a half squint. You know what I mean? Like you look with your whole eyeballs, and that just, you look around and then you squint halfway, and then you can, that seems like
it's going to be really good in allergy season.
I still think, I don't know if you said this or someone, but like, it is weird how in the Vision Pro, your eyes, which are typically a strictly input device, now become a output device and controller. And it can be a little weird. It can be a little weird. All right, 2 quick things, and then we're going to get to personal tech, which is my new computer. It's my new computer.
Love it.
But you had an article about Google that's being really annoying in Safari. And is this talking about like the pop-up, like every time you search in Safari?
Yeah, I should have included that little. I'll add a
little screenshot
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Every single time you want to do a search, and it's like, would you like to continue this in the Google app?
Never.
And then the button says continue, which is selected, or stay in browser. So if you just click continue, what you think you should be doing is like, just don't do anything different. Just let me make my search and do my thing. But if you click that, it will open the Google app if you have it installed, or take you to download the Google app. And I put this together with the whole, Google was very emphatic that searches are not down, even though Eddie Q went on the stand and tossed him underneath the bus, and then backed it up a few times when it said that, searches in Safari are down, and Google's like, but that's because people are using the Google app. And I'm like, well, no kidding, because you just keep putting people into the Google app when they try to do searches in Safari. Yeah. And also Google, like, if you think about it, I don't know the details of the revenue sharing that they have for the search deal, but of course Google wants you to use the Google app, because if it monetizes them in there, probably it's not paying Apple a commission on those, because they're no longer happening in Safari.
That is true. I'm a little tired of Google search, I'll be honest. And last week we talked about what if an AI was an option as a default search engine. And I feel like, and when I search in just the Safari address bar on my phone, I'm getting Google's AI overview 90% of the time anyway. And I feel like if I could change that to like ChatGPT web search, I might switch now, because I'm already getting AI results. I'm just getting Google's AI results. I would say 30% of the time it's inaccurate. Like I was asking it, I was searching last night. I was trying to build a shortcut for somebody in my community, and I was trying to find if it was possible. And the AI overview just basically lied to me. Like it said, yeah, you could do that. You just do this, this, and that. And I'm like, you can't do that. So I'm close. I'm like, maybe, I don't know. On your iPhone, do you use ChatGPT search though?
Yes. Well, I use ChatGPT. So here's the thing. I wish there was a way for me to go and because in ChatGPT, I can see exactly how often I'm using it, because there's just a list of all of the things I used it for, right? So I can basically I wish they were timestamped, but I can basically figure out how often I'm using it. And for almost everything, I'm now just using ChatGPT. I'm just going to the app. I'm not even using the ChatGPT search integration in Brave anymore. And we've gotten to a point, when it first came out and you'd ask it, write a bio for Stephen Robles. And it's like, he was born on a farm in West Virginia, worked in the coal mines, and then traveled the ocean for 6 years. And then, it just makes stuff. It's like, that sounds so cool. I want that life, but it's not actually mine. I was trying to fix a chainsaw the other day, Stephen.
Whoa.
And I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I thought that the chain brake was engaged, but I couldn't quite figure out how to make it work, because anyway, so I took it off, and I just took a photo of the inside of the cover. Wow. Literally, I just took a photo, and I just said, what is wrong with this? No kidding. That was the question. And ChatGPT said, it appears as though the chain brake is engaged. Would you like me to tell you how to fix this? And I said, yes. And it gave me all of the steps. and none of it made sense to me. And then it said, do you want me to give you a diagram? And I said, yes. And no kidding, it gave me a diagram of what to do. Now, it's still, I'm sending you a picture of this diagram that ChatGPT made for me. And I'm going to send you the picture that I sent to, I can't because I can't drag that right now. But anyway, I was like, this is incredible. How in the world did ChatGPT do this? And then I did the thing that you do because I'm like, I actually need a YouTube video of somebody fixing this for me.
Right.
But at least now I knew what I was looking for. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And
so, ChatGPT, just from a photo that said, how did it know, Steven? If I sent a photo of something and it could tell, some of those labels are not exactly like that doesn't matter though. Like it did the thing and it took my photo and it knew instantly. Like, yeah, looks like your little that long screw thing or that long spring thing right there. It's like it looks like that's engaged. I'm like, how does it know?
I will say the rotate clockwise, the arrow I think is backwards, but
it is. It is. There's plenty of things that are not exactly correct, but
if it gets you 90% of the way there, even knowing what to search or the term that you need, it comes a long way. So.
But if I can take a photo of something that's not working and just say, what is wrong with this? And it can actually look at the photo and it knows what it is and it can tell that there's a problem. I didn't say the chain won't work. I didn't say this is a chainsaw that I took the cover off of. I just said, what is wrong with this?
That's wild. I'll give you that. All right. Last thing before we talk about my M4 Max Studio. There was a company that did rebrand again. HBO, which is a part of Warner Brothers Discovery. It's now it's back to HBO Max.
The streaming service. They've changed the name. Service. This HBO was originally HBO, and then it was HBO Go, and then it was HBO Now, and then they combined them all, and they made them HBO Max, but they kept the HBO Go app around for a while.
Yep.
And then they just made it all Max when they merged with Discovery, and because they thought that HBO would be not a good name to have in an app where they also had whatever Discovery has kind of stuff. Is it HGTV and all that kind of stuff? They didn't
stuff like that.
And then they were like, actually, HBO was the most valuable brand that we had. We should put it in the name of everything, please.
So silly. I saw a couple of people online being like, did HBO just do this for the internet memes? And I'm almost inclined to believe that theory. Like maybe this was the best marketing move ever because all everybody's doing is talking about HBO and Max. But also, it's just really silly. So maybe not.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
My thing was like, this is the smartest thing that they've ever done. It's real bad if the smartest thing you ever did is just reversing the stupidest thing you've ever done.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So now it's back to HBO Max. I think they should really just go full circle and just call it HBO. I don't understand why.
There is more though. Like that would be like Disney Plus is not just Disney. You've got ESPN stuff in there. You got Hulu stuff.
So
you got
call
Marvel.
it HBO Plus. HBO Plus. Everybody.
Okay,
calls
but the
it
reason
Plus.
they didn't do HBO Plus is because everybody else's streaming service is Plus. I actually think that the Max is like that part is fine. Meaning adding that as the adjective.
Sure.
It was when it's like you have a name of a brand and then you add an adjective to it to signify that this is like the better version or whatever.
Yeah.
And they just took away the brand and just left the adjective. And it's like, what is Max? What? It's
all
the
the
most.
things.
It's the most of what?
Yeah.
We don't know.
The Pro Max. HBO Pro Max.
Plus. Pro Max Plus.
HBO Max Ultra. Anyway, speaking of Maxes and Ultras, I've been recording this entire episode on my brand spanking new Mac Studio. M4 Max Studio. It's going to be funny. I'm going to make this video. You'll hear about it here first because I'm going to make a video about this versus my M1 Mac Studio. But I'm going to hold up the M1 Max at the intro and be like, I just got an M4 Max. Then I'll be like, just kidding. This is the M1 Max. But it literally looks exactly the same. There's no way you can tell the difference from the outside. And hopefully that will be funny. But,
Steven, can I just say a thing? I want you to talk about this. I just want to tell our listeners, you should not buy a brand new computer and then do a podcast the same week. It's not a good idea.
No. I wouldn't have done it, but it came in Tuesday. So I had a whole day. Okay, listen. Here's how it happened. Okay. I got it on Tuesday. I was on the fence, Migration Assistant or set up from scratch. And I was very close to doing Migration Assistant. And then I started looking at my applications folder. And I said, I have all these Adobe apps installed that I haven't used in a year or 2 years. I don't want any Adobe anything. And I know there's a bunch of stuff in my library folder, Adobe support, application support. I don't want any of that. I know I could uninstall it, but I know those files, they just hide. They're hidden over there in the library. You know what I'm talking about. They're just there. So I didn't want to install Zoom. I haven't used Zoom in forever because we use Riverside. Yes, I work for Riverside. But I haven't used Zoom in forever. Apple uses WebEx, so I don't need Zoom there. If I ever need to use Zoom, I think I can do Zoom in a browser. I don't think you need the actual app. So I'm not going to install Zoom. And there was other little apps where I was like, I don't use that anymore. I was like, all right, I'm doing a clean slate. I will say start to finish, like logging into my Apple ID to being ready to go, except for enabling screen sharing in Brave, which caused me to have to restart it just for this podcast. 2 hours. 2 hours was it. 2 hours, I logged into my Apple ID, installed all the apps, installed things like Audio Hijack, everything from the Mac App Store, logged into everything. 2 hours, starting from scratch, and it was basically just like my other one and ready to go. And one, because I basically keep everything in iCloud Drive, so I don't have to move any files over. Most of my apps are from the App Store, so that's great. And the other apps like Hazel, Text Expander, Audio Hijack. I already made a video about all the apps I install on a Mac. I'll find that to link it in the show notes. But super fast. And now I have this computer. People were asking me about the specs. Listen. I'm trading in my M1 Max, so I saved a little bit there. But I did go all the way M4 Max. And by all the way, I mean 128 gigabytes of unified memory and 8 terabyte SSD. Now listen, I know everybody's saying the 8 terabyte is the most expensive upgrade. Yes, I could use external hard drives for everything. I already use it for my Final Cut Pro footage. I know all of that. Here's why I went 8 terabytes. My old Mac Studio was 2 terabytes. I was already like 3/4 full, and I had the iCloud photo library optimizing Mac storage, so I didn't have the downloads, the originals downloaded. If I were to download the originals, it's about 1 terabyte for my iCloud photo library. So obviously I couldn't do it on my old Mac Studio. I could have gone to 4 terabyte SSD, and then I would have been at like 2.5 terabytes of full, and then like 1.5 terabytes free for the next however many years. And it's like, you can't upgrade this. I'd never wanted to think about this. And so I went all the way and I did the 8 terabyte. And the one checkbox I've never checked on a Mac that I always wanted to do, I post a little video, the download originals of my photo library to my Mac. I did it. And it's very nice. It all downloaded overnight. And then the next day, Wednesday, my entire iCloud photo library was downloaded. My mail was all downloaded, my messages, everything synced, and I was ready to go. And it's wonderful. Now, I did do some tests. Here's the thing. M chips are very good. I don't know if you know that, Jason.
I heard.
Even the M1 chips are still very good. So I started doing side-by-side tests. I did exports in compressor of like my videos. I did transcriptions using Transcriptionist and seeing how long those took. It is definitely faster. The M4 Max does all the tasks faster. The problem is a lot of my tasks are not like hour-long videos. They're like 10-minute or 15-minute videos. So I'm saving like 2 to 3 minutes on an export, which is not significant. And I would say if you were trying to, like, if you do the kind of videos I do, like upgrading even from an M1 to an M4 is not hugely significant. But I want to do some bigger tasks. Like I want to find the longest YouTube video I can find and try to transcribe that and see how it goes with each. And also like encode an hour-long video, which is something that I'll do periodically from Final Cut, and then time that because I imagine there'll be a larger difference there. But obviously it's very fast. And yeah, I mean, I have now all the SSD. I'm like Thanos. I could finally rest.
I have a lot of thoughts. But the first thing I will say, if you want a good test, and I just did this recently. So I downloaded, while I was in Miami, the Berkshire Hathaway had their annual meeting. And I watched part of it, and I was thinking about writing about something, and I wanted to know what they might have said about a couple things. And much easier than searching through every article on the internet to find out if they happen to include a quote about this particular topic. I just downloaded the whole thing. It's like 6 hours long. Put it in Whisper transcription. Okay. And Whisper allows you to choose the model. And if you use one of the large models, it'll give you speaker identification, which is just a really helpful thing. So, but they take a lot longer, as you can imagine. In a 6-hour video, you can imagine it will take a while to transcribe. I did convert it to audio first. So I opened it in QuickTime, just exported the audio and just dumped that in there just for the size of the file. And it took on an M4 Pro, MacBook Pro, it probably took about 25 minutes to do the transcription and then to go back through and do the speaker identification. Okay. So it does those two things in 2 different steps in the large model. And then I did what I needed to do and whatever. And I was like, I wonder how long that would have taken on the M4 MacBook Air. So I did it on there and it took about 45 minutes. And that's just an M4 to an M4 Pro. So there is like a real difference when you start getting into that kind of thing. But you're right, exporting from Final Cut, it's optimized on every Apple Silicon. Like there's a specific media encoder that's designed just to do that. You're not even like touching the CPU, like to do that kind of thing. No. But if you were having to compile code all the time because you had to see, did this thing work? How does it run? That's where those, even if you're like, you go from 40 seconds to 15 seconds, it's like, I can now fix it right now and I can run it right now and I can do those things, and those are repetitive. If you're like, I'm making a 15-minute video and exporting it, there's zero benefit. Like it's not important. It's literally saving me 2 to 3 minutes. But my process, I will typically be exporting a video in compressor and transcribing the audio and also making my thumbnail in Pixelmator. Like I'm doing all of that simultaneously. When I do that on my M4 Air, it chokes. Like it does start actually like getting unusable. Like I can't really make changes in Pixelmator because it's trying to export in the background and trying to transcribe. And my M1 Max was able to do that pretty handily. I don't know. And so that's another test I need to do. Like let me export, transcribe, and edit in Pixelmator and see how that affects the times. And I'll do it. But I'm also gonna download that 6-hour Berkshire Hathaway thing and transcribe it and see how that does. But anyway, yeah, I have it though. I mean, I have all the SSD space now. Honestly, I should not buy a computer now for 10 years. I'm not saying I won't. I'm saying I probably shouldn't. Right. I really don't think I need to. And that SSD is insanely expensive, like as an upgrade. But I also, I was in a position this year to be able to do this. And I've never maxed out a configuration on a Mac. Like I've just never been able to, nor feel like I should have or whatever. And so, you could go up to the M3 Ultra, but I didn't want the M3. I wanted the M4. And so because the 3 is the lower number, that's the reason. Honestly, yes, yes, that. But also, I even again from my workflows, I knew that the M3 Ultra was. What I have now is overkill, and the M3 Ultra would be even more overkill. What you had last week was maybe not overkill, but was plenty. Yeah, what I had last week was good, but I never have to think about RAM or just SSD space again. So I don't know. It's fun to have. It's just going to sit here as another block of aluminum. There you go. And ports. I have to say, Mac Studio ports, undefeated. I use every port, and it's wonderful, every single one. Now, I just want to say for our listeners, you should not do what Steven did. And I don't mean buy all the RAM and the SSD. I'm just going to say for most people, Migration Assistant is the way to go because it does put everything the way you need. And it does not take very long to Migration Assistant. I think you could have done Migration Assistant and deleted everything from Adobe and it would have still taken you less time because it's real fast to do that. But I just don't I don't trust I have Hazel looking all through all the files to see if anything else was installed. What do you think Adobe is going to do if some little tiny thing of it gets stuck in So what? What's it going to do? I don't want it in there. I just don't want it in there. Let me know in the community. Let me know on social media if you identify with my desire to not. I just don't want it in there. That's fair. I'm saying the trade-off is we go to record a podcast and it's like, oh shoot, now I can't share my screen without restarting. But that would have been the case either way. That's a mission critical thing.
I feel like that would have been the case either way. I feel like I would have to give it permissions, but I did do the thing where I had my old Mac Studio on a display over here with the system settings, and I was literally going pane by pane just to make sure all the settings matched, like mouse tracking speed, my screensaver, timeout settings, all that kind of stuff. So.
That's amazing.
Anyway, it's enjoyable. I'm going to do a video on it, so that'll be on my personal YouTube. But we're going to go talk about bonus content. I want to talk about microphone that I bought and already returned. See, I don't keep everything. I've returned some things, especially when I don't need them. And then
I think just microphones. So far, in my experience, the only thing you get and then return are microphones.
I've returned some chargers that I've used in a video and not. No, I do have more. I have more chargers here. These were sent to me though. I got this Anker one that's like also has a night light, and then I have this. This one I've actually been wanting to try for a while. This is like a 4-in-1 charger, and so we did a video on that. But anyway, we're gonna go record a bonus episode. You can subscribe and listen to our entire back catalog of bonus episodes, including John Gruber's Preferences Lightning Round. That was our bonus episode last week. So you can support the show at join.primarytech.fm. When you do it there, you get chapters even in the ad-free version of the episode. But you can also support us in Apple Podcasts. They just strip out my chapters, and there's nothing I can do about it. But anyway, you can support us either way and let us know in that survey what member benefit. If you've already taken it, thank you so much for doing that. If you haven't taken it, we'd love to hear from you. And thank you for support. Leave us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcast if you haven't yet. We're trying to get to 1,000 there in the next year, we'll say. And you can also watch the show on YouTube, youtube.com/@primarytechshow. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We'll catch you next time.